other people became the head of, VH1, Fuse, I mean,
Right.
So basically a lot of the relationships that we had branched out from there, then they went to the West Coast, so we would get, like, we've been getting gigs from a lot of those connections, from that, from that point, and so that's kind of how we got started in the whole TV and film vibe, and that was a whole new thing. And it was great because the TV, that was very creative, on that side,
Yeah.
and then the band stuff, we always had My World, you know what I mean? So My World was always our vehicle, for performance and stuff like that. And we had some really good times. We're having some really good times, not had.
Right. So now, that whole end of it is still ongoing, except for right now. Like,
Right.
you still get calls to do various snippets of music for parts of movies and TV.
Oh yeah, sure. No, I mean, basically over the last year, we had like a whole Google campaign. We recorded a Google campaign. We did something for Chase, so we still get a lot of commercial stuff, a lot of TV shows. We did a whole thing for the Food Network, towards, the end of, basically all of last year. They did the reboot of Wonderama that stopped about a year ago, but for about 2 years we did all the music for that, and and I gotta say, I have to really attribute that all to Chris. It's like, because Chris is really, he's been in that whole scene, for a long time, and he's developed that reputation. Hey, I have a reputation too, but I'm saying is that, it's just one of those things where, that's where we get a lot of those projects from and connections from the TV and film side, so, and, so yeah, it's been pretty cool, it's definitely been pretty cool. So,
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah.
That's really, really cool.
I think
And like, now that kind of also, like, I know like, people say that you're the go-to guy in that circle. Like, you play on a lot of things that many people may not know that you play on. Like, you do a lot of rap records. Like, you play any type of music that someone taps you to do. Could you tell us maybe some of the things that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, sure. One of the cool, like, side things was, I used to write, and I think a lot of the magic of this stuff is kind of like how things happen. It's like,
Right.
like I used to write like a bass column, for a magazine, and at one of their events, I met this singer songwriter, Kyle Jason, who was on Chuck D from Public Enemy's record label. So I ended up, Kyle and I hit it off. We had dinner, after the event, and we just really hit it off. And he's like, "Why don't we get together and do some playing?" I'm like, "Wow, pretty cool." So he was basically on Chuck's label. He's an old friend of Chuck D's. So Chuck's, I think he still has the house, but in Roosevelt. So Chuck grew up in Roosevelt, and so they have, so his mother's house was converted into studios, so I ended up recording a couple albums with Kyle, and then I got to be good friends with the producer, Johnny Juice Rosato, and Chuck. And I ended up doing I played on 3 Public Enemy albums, it's like, so we did, and that was in about 1999 to 2002, 2003, and that was really cool because I think, from my influences, just kind of growing up, I was always like into, rock and metal, of course, but I was also into like a lot of the R&B stuff. I got really into jazz, like avant-garde, stuff, played upright for, with a lot of stuff too. And it's like, I just love that whole like avant-garde scene. And the cool thing with the avant-garde scene was there was a lot of dribs and drabs of jazz, of R&B, of soul. If you listen to like Charles Mingus, Charles Mingus stuff, it's like it crosses so many boundaries, and I think that just really influenced me a lot. So I was very fortunate, very young, to have a teacher, that introduced me to a lot of like the fusion type stuff, like the Stanley Clarks, Dixie Dregs. I was like, and that's how I met Chris. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but
no, please, that's what you're supposed to do. That's your job here, man.
If you go too far, we'll be like, holy shit, what are you talking about?
Shut up.
Yeah, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. You're doing it perfectly.
Yeah.
But that's that actually, like, I remember I was 13, and this teacher of mine introduced me to the Dixie Dregs, and I was like, holy crap! He gave me 3 vinyl albums. One was Jaco Pastorius's I forgot the name of the bloody album. Anyway, but then Stanley Clark, Journey to Love, and then Dixie Dregs Freefall. And I was just, my mind was totally blown, so it's like, so I heard of this guitar player. I grew up in Mineola on Long Island here. And then I heard of this guitar player in New Hyde Park, that he was a big Dixie Dregs fan. I'm like, wow, nobody heard of the Dixie Dregs except, I didn't know of anybody that knew of them, So we always heard of each other, and then at one point we crossed paths, so, but I think, because of the diverse appreciation of music, I think that has allowed me, to fit in, with a lot of different genres of music, The great thing about the Public Enemy stuff at the time is that they weren't using a live band yet, so it's like a lot of the stuff they were doing, they had like, it was Chuck, Flav, DJ Lord, and then, the S1Ws. So they didn't bring a live band on stage yet, when we were, working with them, so it's like, on the last song on one of the albums is literally a 13-minute jam. And it's basically just us with Chuck on it, with Johnny Juice on the turntables and everything, so it's like, it was really cool because, with the Public Enemy stuff, with that guy Kyle Jason, he was a big jazz R&B fan, so it just melded into something that was really cool, and so I worked with them for quite a bit, and I ended up working with DMC through that, for Run DMC. So, and again, just some really cool vibes, and I think a lot of it too was like in the mid 90s. In like downtown Manhattan, there was a really big avant-garde scene. It's like there was it's like the Knitting Factory. Like I remember sneaking into the Knitting Factory when I was like 19. I wasn't old enough to get in there, but hearing like Vernon Reid from Living Colour, like Vernon Reid would be in there with like Ronald Shannon Jackson, and like just crazy stuff, just amazing stuff. And it was just, that whole vibe was really cool, So, I remember there was like, I met some NYU students that were, they were film students. So there was a club down on Green Street where they would basically put their, they would do, like kind of like impressionistic movies, and not porn, but impressionistic movies. And I remember I used to go with my upright bass and effects board, and I would improvise to the film. It was just such a cool vibe, So I think a lot of that stuff, kind of like, when you have like, I guess, a broad appreciation of music, that kind of lends itself to being able to play in different situations,
Absolutely.
Helps a lot with the TV and film work too.
Right.
Because you'll get like, TV people are hysterical because they're like, okay, we need this piece tomorrow. It's got to be 30 seconds long, and we kind of want it to sound like Grey Poupon mustard meets Bugs Bunny with like a classical thing, but with a hip hop beat.
Right up your alley.
No problem.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, gotcha. Got you, boo. I got you covered.
The answer is always yes.
The answer is always yes.
Yeah.
So you have to try to figure out what that is going to sound, and hopefully that's what their vision is, for the actual piece. And I gotta say, most of the time we get it right. I don't know how, but but most of the time we get it right. Sometimes they're like, well, I think it needs to sound a little more green. I'm like, okay.
I don't know, man. They may just be afraid of you, man. You're an imposing figure. I've actually shared the stage with you. Do you remember we had a jam one night?
Yeah, totally.
I actually have the picture. I'm actually gonna pop it up for a second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was
at the rail.
Yes, it was. Right. It was at Lenny's place. And it was
right.
Rob was on drums, although the picture doesn't contain Rob. I'm singing something, and I don't really sing. But I see Rob Benatti is in there. Jasmine Killcode's there, and then you're in the back. And I think you're probably just saying, what the fuck are these guys doing?
But see, that's improvisation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I remember I had a good time. I don't remember what we did, but I remember having a really good time.
I think we always had a good time when we were at the rail.
I think so.
Always a late night, too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I miss about a lot of this stuff too, man. It's like, and I think, whatever level players, even like the A-list guys, you know what I mean? It's like, there's jams in Nashville that are like, like secret jams,
Yeah.
And, and it's like, I think a lot of people miss getting together and just playing and see what comes out, Yeah. I think that's like, that's one of the things that this whole pandemic thing has kind of like killed too.
It's killed a lot of that. That was, those open jams, they do so much for the music scene. There's camaraderie you make, like we'll remember that night forever, Even though it was a one-off, we did probably 2 songs, maybe 1. I don't remember.
Right. That's
but it was a lot of fun. I remember that, we had a great time.
It could be like Iron Man for like 20 minutes,
Yeah.
On the water without going into the chorus.
Oh yeah.
So John, when all this was happening with recording with Public Enemy and those people, was My World up and running at that point?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it was. That was early. Yeah, that was late '90s. So yeah, we were doing quite a bit of stuff. We were doing quite a bit of gigging, and actually, Chuck and Johnny Juice, they started coming out to some of our shows. So I got a video somewhere, but basically, so we did a thing at a My World show where Chuck came up and Johnny played, brought turntables. So we did a couple of Public Enemy songs at one of our things. We had a big party in the city at this one club, and it was actually Chris put it together. It was killer. And so basically they ended up playing with us there. Actually, it was we were supposed to work on an album, and Chuck do some vocals on it, on one of the albums. But then there was a lot of stuff going on in their camp actually. So, it's like, I think, Chuck was in the middle of moving and stuff like that. There was a lot of stuff going on our side too, because, they had a lot of things going on with the tour. And then we were building our relationship with BMG, and so it's like,
that's your label that you're currently on.
Right. So, BMG is a publishing company. So basically, they're not technically a label, but we've been signed with BMG for quite some time now. But they've done a lot. They've done a lot to help us out, especially earlier on, where, it kind of gives you a little bit extra. I don't know, a little doors opening, due to that, no publishing company or label is really doing that much for anybody, and hey, we're not 15-year-olds. We're not like a boy band. So we're not, they're not pushing us, they're not putting millions of dollars behind anybody, well, especially now too, but they were really good with like facilitating a lot of things, some of the things that we started, some of the relationships that we started, that when they came in and said, hey, we're behind you, it just put her over the edge.
Oh, nice.
Which was great,
That's nice to hear.
And the relationship is there. It's there, it's a great company. It's really a great company. And, so, again, a lot of this stuff is just pieces eventually find each other and come together to a certain extent,
Right.
during that whole time, I mean, my world has always been active. We always find some cool little thing, I mean, it was about a year before that, we had gotten a call to do a couple opening spots for like Jethro Tull. That was pretty wild.
Wow.
So we did a couple of those things. And I mean, there's so many stories. It's crazy,
Right.
Well, I want to ask you, I know you do a lot of like one-off really cool gigs like in New York City area. How did you did a gig, or you do gigs almost every year at the Freedom Tower?
Yeah, well, we started doing that. We didn't do it this past year because there was construction going on. But not, I mean, obviously, 2020, but the year before that, there was a lot of construction. But yeah, I mean, we had a cool relationship with the Silverstein properties there, and they had like an outdoor stage, so like every month they had a performance. But a lot of them didn't happen, but we ended up putting on a pretty cool one, for a couple of years in a row, for about 3 years in a row.
Nice.
And it was just a really cool backdrop, really cool vibe. A lot of people, it ended up being a really good turnout from people because it was literally in a courtyard. Trying to think of the cross streets, but it's actually right outside the EMMY building. So it was actually, but that was a really cool vibe, and the first one we did, they were still kind of building the Freedom Tower. So we got like VIP, they brought us up to what they called the War Room, where they had like at the top of 7 World Trade Center, where it was looking down at the whole pit and everything. And it had like the full scale model of what the whole area was going to look like.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was a pretty cool experience.
That's cool.
So no, that was a really cool vibe. Definitely a cool experience, So, but it's like, it's what we try to do is, we try to kind of pick and place, performances, because, hey, everyone, even without the pandemic, it's like, any kind of like performance stuff is tough because, hey, I mean, you want to, it doesn't make sense for us to play, locally every, like twice a month, because you got to try to get people out to performances and stuff like that. So we try to mix things up, doing some away stuff, doing some here, and so, I mean, but the New York City, we always try to do like events instead of gigs with a lot of stuff, we try to line up like a really cool performance, a cool show.
Right.
We used to have a really good relationship with Gibson guitars, and Gibson had Gibson had the old Hit Factory in New York City. So they basically took over the Hit Factory building, and our relationship with them was amazing. So we used to have events there all the time. We would do like a couple things where we'd have like, the Gibson bus would come up for us and everything. And we would just put on performances. We did one with BMG. We did one with Chris actually put together this one with Steve Madden. Steve Madden, the fashion designer.
Yeah.
That was killer. That was freaking fantastic, And so it was funny because we, probably shouldn't say it, but we.
This is the place to do it. Nobody watches us, so you're good. You're safe here.
No.
We pretty much had the run of the place. We could pretty much go there whenever we wanted, which is great, So that was Gibson was our rehearsal studio. I mean, we used to rehearse there whenever we wanted, and it was a really, really cool spot. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the things that we've always tried to focus on, is try to, create events, create things instead of just like a standard gig, so.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Unique.
Yeah.
Trying to do something, trying to think outside the box,
Yeah.
Lisa from the Rail piped in and just wanted to say, love hearing your stories, John. And also wanted to say, love hearing the regs. I missed her last week. I was trying to get everybody's comments in last week too. So I want to make sure I don't miss Lisa this week. So.
Miss you.
My cousin texted me and wants to know what bass you have on because he's a bass player.
This is an MTD, Michael Tobias design. So, I mean, I've had a relationship with MTD since I was like probably in my mid-20s, you know. So Mike Tobias was originally Tobias basses.
Yep.
You know, and then Gibson actually bought the Tobias brand. And then after a few years afterwards, you know, Mike started making MTD basses. And really cool story with this bass. I mean, this is, you can see, this has been all over the bloody world.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Right.
Gorgeous.
This is like, you know, this isn't road, this is really road worn, you know?
Right.
But this bass was like, I was doing a show, I got a call to do a show for Vicki Lawrence show.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show. All right. Yeah, this is a funny one. So there's a he's like a Disney guy, like a Hunter Hayes. Hayes.
Yeah.
So basically Hunter Hayes is like kind of like he was 5 years old. And he was doing a performance on the Vicki Lawrence show, and they needed a backup band. And I got the call, you know, to be on the backup band. And so he was great. He was like 5 years old, little kid playing, like singing jambalaya with an accordion. And
right.
Here I'm like a freaking 6'2" monster standing behind him. Yeah, talk about camera angles, right?
Yeah.
But I was in the market for like a good, you know, a handmade bass. You know, it's like I was playing one bass from another manufacturer, was an import, and the fingerboard started ramping up. You know, it's like on the edge here, you know, and
Right.
I brought it into a repair shop, and you know, he basically said, you know, the whole neck has to be planed down, refretted. It was going to cost about $300, you know, and the bass probably cost me $400, you know, and I'm like, And when I spoke to the manufacturer, you know, he had also made handmade instruments, and I'm like, all right, well, maybe it's time. Maybe I'll get like one of the handmade ones from him. And but I said, you know, I asked him. I said, listen, is it possible to also maybe I could buy a replacement neck for the import bass too? And I will not say his name, but he basically said, you know what? Give me a call when you buy one of my real basses. Click. I'm like, ooh, well, I was going to, but you're kind of a douche, you know? So,
Yeah.
So I was not going to play his bass on the TV show, you know? So I went into Rudy's in Manhattan, and Manny's in Manhattan. And I was just looking around for basses, and I saw this bass, and I'm like, wow. And I didn't even know MTD was Mike Tobias. I was looking at some other ones, then I picked it up, and I'm like, wow, this plays killer. This is freaking great. And I'm like, wow, I was blown away. Then the price was pretty steep, you know, and but I was, you know, I guess I was about 25, 26 at the time, and I had some of the money for it, but I couldn't really do the rest of it. And my dad at the time was like, listen, he's like, if it's going to be something you're going to be really using, you know. And also I would be getting the money from the show too, you know, so that was going to be able to do it, you know. And he's like, yeah, I'll spot you the money for it, you know. And, you know, my dad, amazing person. I miss him every day. But, you know, he was one of those people like, yeah, I'll spot you the money. Then he'll be like, forget about it, you know. But but I wanted the bass for that show, you know. So and we were shooting in like 2 days. So I couldn't get all the money in time. So I said, was it possible for me to use the bass on the show? I'll give you some of the money. So I can use the bass on the show. And then when I get the rest of it, you know, I'll give it to you. So he's like, well, let me call Mike Tobias and see if it's okay. So he actually gave me Mike's number. And I spoke to Mike on the phone. He's like, yeah, you could definitely take it. He's like, and then, you know, give me a call when it's done, you know. So I played the bass on the show. And then he's like, you know, do you have any kind of artist, artist relations with any companies? I'm like, well, no. He's like, well, he's like, I can give you an artist discount on it, and be an MTV artist, you know? So that was like my first endorsement, really, you know? And again, he's just been a phenomenal person. And most of the bases that I play with My World, you know, are MTDs, you know? So this is, again, my main one, you know? So again, this has been all over Europe with me. This has been everywhere,
right.
You know? And yeah, I mean, it's like, and actually I don't have the bass for the show, and I was supposed to release it in April, but I have a new one that's pretty sick. So maybe we'll do that again.
You will have that one time. Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to kind of run us through some of the other stuff you have there?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a 6-string, 35-inch scale. It's a 635. So this is a Myrtle Burl top, you know, with a African satin wood back and a Wenge neck and fingerboard. So, and I've just grown to love this combination. You know, it's like, and actually the most recent one that they're doing is kind of like a play on this too. So, but I mean, there's a couple of them here, and I'm gonna.
Sure.
Hey, Nathaniel, you good now? Just my cousin, just making sure you're all right that he's doing this.
I'll keep going if you want, Nathaniel.
No. Do it. I have to make sure he's okay. You know, young and impressionable.
So now this bass is one that Lenny knows.
Oh, this is.
All right.
When I first got into this journalistic journey, John was my first guest, and this you got to hear about this bass. It's
super
cool
cool
story.
So this bass is, and I'm all about stories. So
yeah,
absolutely.
So the story behind this is this again. This is an MTD, another MTD. So another part of the history is that, you know, I've for a number of years I did some bass building with Carl Thompson, you know, and one of the most dear friends of mine. I love him to death. You know, he's just one of my favorite people, you know, and I became a really good sweeper of floors, and, you know, did some pretty cool stuff with him. But, you know, it's like, it was just one of those people that I will treasure my days with him for years. And I still see him, which is great because he lives like two doors down from us in Brooklyn. So, so I was getting ready to dabble, you know, with some walnut. You know, so I was looking like locally on Long Island here, went upstate a little bit, but just here first for a piece of walnut. And so I went to this lumber yard they're not there anymore, but I think they were in St. James or something like that. And I asked the guy, I'm like, hey, do you guys have any, you know, pieces of walnut that, you know, that I could use? And he's like, we don't really sell walnut. He's like, well, you know, that's not something we carry on a regular basis. So we started talking about instrument building and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'm just looking for a piece to mess around with. So he's like, well, it sounds like you're not going to just mess around with it. He's like, you know what? Wait a second. I think I got something for you. So he goes up into this loft area and he pulls down this, it was about a 6-foot tall piece of walnut. It kind of tapered from about maybe 4 inches to about 8 inches, a lot of bark on it, you know, very irregular, some cracks in it. And he's like, would this work for you? And I said, yeah, that'll be perfect. You know, I can make that work. So he's like, well, let me tell you a little something about it. He said, well, a couple of years ago in East Setauket, I got the call to tear down a barn, you know, and he's like, and, you know, just, you know, basically haul the wood away from the barn. So he said, this piece of wood was one of the support beams in the barn, and it was walnut. And I'm like, wow. And, you know, if you research walnut, especially on Long Island in the Northeast, I guess it was sometime in the late 1800s. I forget the year if I'm wrong, but there was something like a disease called the walnut blight that destroyed all the walnut trees in the Northeast. You know, so it's like, so for a beam to be made of walnut, out of native walnut, it was pretty old, you know? Right. So he's like, and there was plenty of it. So he said, now this barn is on the property of the Copers, you know, so the Coper house, you know, so now the Coper family was culprit was actually one of George Washington's spies, the head of his spy ring. And this barn is on the Culper House is considered a landmark, but the barn was so far, it was going to collapse basically. So we got the order to rip it down. He's like, but this walnut came from one of the support beams in the barn where they used to have their meetings. So they used to call it the spy barn, the George Washington spy barn. And some people, when I said it, they were like, yeah, we used to hang out there. They used to hang out there all the time. So basically he gave me this piece of walnut, and he's like, but you got to promise you're going to do something cool with it. So I'm like, all right. So, I sat on it for a while, because it was more special than I thought it was going to be, than I anticipated, So I'm like, I got to make sure I'm going to do something great with this, Yeah. So I was hanging on for it for a little too long. And then it got to be a point where I'm like, you know what? I brought it up to Mike Tobias and I said, Mike, I got this piece of walnut and I want to make a bass completely out of walnut, and so he was totally stoked. And again, there's no like real, serious figure to the front of it.
No, it's just
most of the figure to the back,
Yeah.
But basically the neck is made out of 100% walnut, but with some of these Purple Heart stringers in it. But this bass is entirely made out of walnut, from the George Washington spy barn. And then when we put the 12th fret here, that inlay is actually the George Washington flag with the 13 stars. So I don't know if you can see that.
Dude, that's killer.
Very cool.
That is absolutely killer.
So it's a definitely cool story, So it's kind of like, if you can read that, but anyway. But it's the George Washington bass. So it was actually in Bass Player magazine about 2 years ago, So there was a feature on it, so it was pretty cool. So. But yeah, just stories, man.
I love that one.
Yeah, that's a great story, man. That is really cool.
Oh yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, again, this is just a relationship with Mike Tobias, and I mean, I got to shout out to Jody. Do you guys know Jody Head and Jody Head Straps?
Yes, straps. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She has basically given me a wardrobe of straps over the last couple of years. I'm not giving me, but I mean, basically all my straps are from her. I mean, it's like, I feel like a whole, fashion freaking guru.
Yeah. Wow. Gorgeous straps, right?
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah.
So MTDs, let's see. Now, I got to say, one cool thing, the great thing with MTD as well, and this would be good for, you said your cousin?
Yeah.
So basically, Mike Tobias also they have what they call the Kingston series, which is an import series, so it's so they're not, these aren't the handmade ones, but these are to the very similar specs, of the handmade ones. So it's so this is a Z6. And what I did with this, I mean, again, the hardware pickups are all perfect, but I usually get these and I'll just modify them, so it still has the same vibe, still same feel.
Yeah.
I mean, these things feel great, so it's and they're perfect. I mean, I've played these on plenty of professional gigs, even without modifications, you know what I mean? So it's but it's if someone wants a bass that's I'd say about 1,200, maybe 1,400, as opposed to $4,000, you know what I mean?
Right.
And and it's still a great, great gigging bass, great playing bass. I mean, phenomenal. So it's so I have a couple of the import basses too. And I'll just chop these up, not chop them up, but but I'll swap out pickups. I'll change the hardware on them. It's do any modifications to them. So so these have been kind of my thing. So.
But it's what we do. We take great instruments and make them ours. I mean, that's
absolutely.
Really
that's the thing, man. It's that's one of the cool things about I always encourage people to dig into their instrument, not with a chisel, but but everyone should learn how to kind of set up their instruments. You know what I mean? It's learn the mechanics of it. Don't be afraid to.
Don't be afraid. I have you talk to so many people. Oh, I can't do that. I'm like, really? Unscrew it. get the watch YouTube. You'll be able to
everything on YouTube now, man.
You're not gonna break a professional instrument unless you're a complete maniac and take like a power drill to change do the truss rod.
That's the thing. I mean, it's like everyone should be able to do general maintenance on their instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said about great repair people.
Oh yeah, no. If there's things need to be done.
Definitely, there's certain things that I'm not going to do on my own. It's like I wouldn't do a fret job on my basses.
I don't do fret. I've polished and done all that, but I won't do full on.
If I know the manufacturer and I have the relationship, I bring it to them. I let them do it, or someone else. It's like, I mean, on this bass, I would probably, if I needed to, I'd probably do a fret job on it. It's like, I know how to do it. I've done it in the past. It's like there's certain things, but you got to practice it. Certain things are meant for the people that really know what they're doing. Right. It's like,
true. Well said.
That's it. That's the thing. It's like, I mean, they have, it's kind of like being like the difference between a parent and a teacher, right? A parent, you have experience with one or two kids, maybe your cousin's kid or something like that. A teacher has experience with hundreds of kids. You know what I mean? Right. So there's certain knowledge that teachers have that a parent might not, and you have to appreciate them for their expertise, Yeah. And that's a luthier, that's a good repair person,
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, the MTDs are kind of like, some of my main basses. I play other basses too. I'm a big Hofner fan. So basically here I'm like doing all these 6-string basses.
Yeah.
I'm like a huge Hofner fan, and it's like.
And why would that be?
Nothing sounds like a Hofner. I mean, they're so unique sounding.
Yeah.
So, and this is another cool story. So.
And then there's that guy who's played those before too.
Well, that's the thing. Is that there's the guy that plays.
There's that guy.
Anyway, he was in Wings.
Yeah.
Pauly Shore, right?
That's it. Oh, look at that sweet one! Look at that.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Sparkly. This is so cool story with the Hofners. Another one too. So, I had met the guys from Hofner, some years ago, and I think it was actually when I was working with the Public Enemy guys, and I was using I have like this, it's an old 68 Gretsch Country Gentleman bass, and it's got a really cool vibe to it, but it doesn't sound like the cool thing with Hofners is, and I will get audio on this. Without blowing the doors off the joint. The thing what I love about Hofners is that they have like this weird like a thunkiness to them. Very, very stiff attack, and very little it almost has like a natural compression to it, and it has like a definition that you can get from that. You're not going to get that from like an MTD or even a P bass or something like that.
Right.
So what I found is that the Hofners were my secret weapon with a lot of the hip hop and R&B tracks, because it didn't have the sustain of a P bass. And a lot of people, what they used to do is they would put mutes under the strings to get that deadened sound. So they would put they'd put a sock under the string,
right, or wrap a shoelace around it. Yeah.
Right. Put a Twinkie under there.
Yeah, that worked. And then you have a snack.
There you're right. So what was really cool is that they were, I think, the people at Hofner at the time, and still my relationship was, I think they appreciated that I was someone that was using a Hofner for like a different type of a vibe. It's like you get a lot of Hofner players that kind of want the Paul McCartney thing. It's like a lot of the people that play Hofners, they love the Beatles, and that's the sound they're looking for. It's like, so there's other famous players that play Hofners, but there's, you know, like Tina Weymouth from the Talking Heads. She was a big popular person.
Right.
I mean, but again, it's hard to kind of think of them, you know, there's people who play them as kind of like gimmicks, you know, but, so I developed a relationship with them. So the very first one, they said, well, what color would you be into? We can do any color. So I said, how about like a purple burst? So my first Hofner was a purple burst. So this one was probably a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago. And so what they did is they asked me what color, and I said, how about like a silver sparkle? So, you know, so they actually had a finishing person here in the United States do the actual finish. And she's actually working on an MTD for me right now. So we're going to do like a blue sparkle MTD. So
wow.
We love the sparkle, man. Absolutely love it.
You know, it's like you can go wood grain, you know, with a lot of stuff, but sometimes you just need a sparkle.
Sometimes you need a sparkle. I agree.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I use quite a bit of different bases. It just depends on the gig, you know. And I think, you know, I think one of the cool things about basses, and I think people don't appreciate it as much, is, you know, there's a lot of nuances to the bass. Sure. Especially when recording, you know, like, you know, the right bass for the right gig, you know, that kind of thing, you know.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing with the Hofner for me, you know. So, but yeah, you know, so
and the pedal board. Let's
well, definitely I'm into pedals to a certain extent, you know.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Again, a lot of pedals, you know, it's again a different voice for the different situations, you know. But I think I've streamlined things down. I mean the amplifiers I've been using for years are Tech 21. You know, Tech 21, I've gotten to know them over the years. Really, really good people. They design incredible stuff, you know.
Yeah. And,
you know, it's when I was first kind of discovered them, you know, it was actually with the first version of this Sansamp Bass DI, you know, and it was actually one of the first pedals that, you know, I had this idea. I always heard about this where with overdrive with bass, you know, the problem is you put it through a big muff. You know, it sounds like mush, you know, it's like sound great for guitar, but you lose lose the low end, you know. So Tech 21 was one of the first ones to do an overdrive, but with a blend knob, you know. So basically what you're doing is you're blending the actual dry signal of the bass along with the distortion, you know. So this way you're not losing the low end, you're not losing the definition, you're just getting that kind of like that grind on the top. So it sounds like almost like a bit of like a driven tube amp, you know? So basically the amplifiers that I'm using is the VT500, you know, that's like a Class D, you know, Class D version, but it's, again, it kind of gives you that Ampeg vibe, but in like a little package, you know? Right. So the Sansamp bass driver is kind of like that amp is like the bass driver in a pedal. You know, so usually I flatten the EQ on the actual amplifier itself and use a little bit of the drive there. And then most of my EQing, if any, is through this pedal, you know, and just give it a little bit of like extra growl, you know. But I mean, I go in through with the Line 6, the G50, you know, it's a cool pedal board wireless system. Peterson tuners, I mean, phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just,
yeah.
I have
nothing better than that.
I have the first one. This is on my studio desk. Let's see. And this is probably probably like 20 years old. You can see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the very first one, you know? The only thing I don't have is a rack mount. I think I have every version since, you know, but, you know, good people, great company, you know, I mean, I've known them for years too, you know? The great thing about these tuners too, I mean, this is the newest version, so they have a really nice, you know, muted, but, you know, I don't know if you can see it with the camera, but, you know, really nice visual.
Yeah, it's big. That's a big visual. It's nice.
Definitely. Big visual. But, you know, everything from detuning, you know, because usually with my world, we'll tune to E flat, you know, so it's very simple to, you know, for that. Also, too, with the MTD they use the buzz feet and tuning system, you know, which has like a compensated 0 fret.
Yes.
Or with other things, we compensated nut, you know. So this has all the presets for buzz feeding, you know, so when you're doing intonation, it's all programmed in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's killer. Then it goes into the this Keeley bassist. So Robert Keeley came out with this bass compressor. I guess it was about 1.5 years ago. He did kind of like a limited run, and I've always used the four knob compressor. You know, the Keeley 4 knob that everyone's been using for years. So I usually use that on guitars. You know, and I love that. You know, so when he came out with the bass version, I had to try it, and it's been living here since. So. This is a really wild pedal, and I'm going to switch basses for this. And it'll help if I mute things. So this is from Game Changer Audio. And the plasma pedal.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get one because that is one badass fucker.
This thing is sick, and with bass too, because it's it basically uses a what do they call it? It's a xenon tube.
Yeah.
Side. So I don't know if you can even see it. I'm sorry if you can't.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, you can see it. Oh.
But you can actually see the actual. That's actually a xenon tube in there. So you can actually. Change like the level of distortion, and this also has a blend function, so you're bringing in the the dry signal of the bass. But yeah, you can totally bring this over the top. It's got a pretty good gate, you know, it's kind of a natural sounding gate. It doesn't sound too gatey, you know?
Right.
So this is kind of like a discovery in the last year. Then what's my brain doing? Dark Glass Electronics, I'm sorry. Another overdrive. A little more mid-rangey, you know? So it's like, sounds like a little more of a driven tube amp.
Right.
So,
another killer.
Just to give it like a little bit of like buzz to it, you know?
Yeah.
And then this is actually a really cool envelope filter from Seamoon. So it's got very dynamic. And what I love about this is the tracking on the low B. Because a lot of like envelopes don't.
Yeah, they won't catch it.
And this was developed by Neil Jason. Neil Jason, he was like he played with a big session guy in New York, New Jersey, you know. So he was actually telling me a story. He used to be Jocko's roommate, so he has a lot of fun. But he and my friend Jack Thompson from Alpha Distribution developed this. And so this is like definitely my new favorite envelope, you know.
Yeah.
It's always hard to find, you know, and this also does the mix, you know, so you can mix the natural bass signal with the actual affected signal. Because a lot of times, you know, with envelopes kind of they can get gimmicky. You know what I mean? It's like where it's like, oh, there's the envelope funk thing, you know? It's like, if you can kind of like, you know, split it so it's kind of more in the background. So it's more of a nuance than it is like the major. You know, it's like instead of the token funk thing, it's more like adding a little bit of an airy thing over the surface of it, you know, and still getting that definition and vibe, you know. So the cool thing is a lot of the stuff it records well. You know what I mean? It translates well. Like a lot of effects, unless, you know, like you guys know with guitars, you know, it's like, it's, you know, if you plug your guitar into a distortion pedal and plug it into your recording rig, it's never going to sound great. You know what I mean? It's like, it depends on what it is. I mean, some pedals now are kind of geared toward that.
Yeah.
You know? But it's like, there's nothing like kind of bringing into an amplifier or a good amp model or, you know, but to at least get the tube personality, I guess, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I'm like a total guitar tone junkie, you know, so
Right.
I'm a bass player, but I'm like, one of my favorite things to record is guitars, you know, so I'm like really, you know, I probably like guitar tones more than I like bass tones, so or I spend more time on guitar tones than I do on bass tones, you know.
That's why I'm on guitar now. I did bass for many years.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
It's just something different, you know. It's there's a certain palette.
Way too many amps back there.
But you know what? Everything has its personality. Is that a Black Magic?
Yes, it is. I know.
Right
yeah, I know. I saw that one back there. Yeah. That amp blew me the fuck away. It is such a great amp.
That is my favorite amp of all time at this stage.
And it's light, man. I started taking that. You know, I was doing the GNR thing too, and I started taking that to gigs. I'm like, why am I lugging around like these fucking really heavy amps when that thing is like 25 pounds and it just kills?
And it's like, and it just breaks up right at the right volume. You know what I mean? It's like you still get the tube nuances in it. You can capture it without making people's ears bleed.
Yeah.
You know,
and you know what? The thing I put in front of it was that Supro boost.
Yes.
They have that boost pedal. You put that in front of that and it's like, that's my favorite fucking pedal, I think. I put that in front of everything now.
You don't even need like an overdrive.
No.
It's just a natural, that is killer.
Yeah.
Dave Coltai from.
Yeah. I got mine directly.
Yep. I've known Dave for years. So Dave.
Great
I got
guy.
my first Pigtronics pedal from him. The very first one he made, actually.
Yeah.
But Dave's a great guy, man. He's like, and he really has the passion for it, you know. He really has the passion, you know. But yeah, hands down, you know. And then my other favorite amp is the Fender Bassman.
Yeah.
You know,
on
both guitars and basses, actually.
Yeah. Well, you see, I have 3 of them back. Oh, I'm sorry, mine say Marshall on them, but it's a Fender Bassman.
Right. Definitely. And then for bass too, you know, it's like you get that. But what I paired with this, like I paired the 15 with the Black Magic, you know, so that's the Black Magic, the single 12. Yeah. But then I paired a 15 with it. Okay. And holy freaking monster, man.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like re-energized my passion for guitars, you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely cool.
Yeah, I got that. I saw the boost because I saw that other fucking asshole, Richard Fortas, that I love. I love that guy, by the way. I got to call him an asshole because I love him.
Right.
And he started playing it. He's like, oh, he's playing the Black Magic. And then he hits the boost. I'm like, wait. Now I have to have the boost.
Right.
I got that. I got a great deal on that. I got it as a musician's friend or guitar center. Had to blow out them for like $80 or something one time. Yeah. So, you know, and they're normally, what, 200 or something. So.
Amazing, man.
I wasn't passing that up.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah,
no,
I put it in front of every amp now. That's just on the board all the time now.
Yeah, man. You know, you find that magic pedal, that magic thing that's you know.
Yeah.
It's hard, and that's been like the bass DI from Sansamp. Like, I've never taken it off a board. You know, it's like I have 2 boards. I have the larger one here, and then I have like a little, you know, a smaller version with just the Sansamp, the tuner, and then I think I have a compressor, not this one, and an envelope on that. You know, so it's like, so that's more of like the you know, if I have to.
Yeah, and you can probably take that on easy on a fly rig, right? You can just fly anywhere with that pedal board.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Total. You know. So
I mean, I got one of those one of the fly rigs. You know, for those quick, you know, like for gigs we do around here that you guys have to run in there real quick. You don't you don't have to pick up an amp. You know, it's just there.
The Tech 21 fly rigs.
Yep. You know.
Yeah.
I got the Kotze one because I like the overdrive in it. It's, you know.
Definitely.
It's fantastic. You know?
They really got it. They got it happening. You know, I mean, they for recording, you know. So, and I don't know if you can see it here, but so Ampeg used to make a direct box that had a tube in it.
Yep.
And it was just called the, I forget what I have it, you know, it's like, but I use that for everything. There was no overdrive to it. It just had a single tube just to warm up the sound, you know, and they stopped making it, you know, and I remember, you know, talking to them and they said, yeah, we really don't have any plans to make another one, you know, and not that I needed another one, but it was just one of those things. I was like, wow, I use that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop making it.
Yeah. I get that.
You know, and again, you know, no overdrive, just enough to give it a little bit of that natural tube compression.
Right.
You know, so I was talking to Dale at Tech 21, good friend, and you know, I'm like, I know you guys don't do tubes or anything like that, you know, but you know, I'm like, man, I'm surprised that they won't make that again, you know. And she's like, well, you know, Andrew was a tube, and you know, he used to design and repair amplifiers before Tech 21, and that was kind of like some of the history was when he designed that, he was actually trying to get a tube sound, but with solid state, you know, and he nailed it, you know. Yeah. So she's like, you know, we're doing this. So they came out with, I wish I could kind of, I can't pull the whole computer around.
Yeah.
But one of the things, one of my favorite, the thing I record with all the time is that Andrew built an all tube version of the bass driver, an 100% tube version. You know?
Wow, that's freaking cool.
No, it's just a preamp, you know. So no, that's all it is a tube preamp. Tube EQ, tube drive to it. So that's my main signal chain. So usually when I do like a recording session for somebody, you know, I mean, that's been pretty cool lately in the past couple of years, is like, you know, doing remote recording, just remote bass tracks, you know. Yeah. I remember there was this band out of Peru and I did like 8 tracks for them, just 8 songs, you know. I played bass on 8 of the songs on their album. So usually what I do is I'll do like a completely dry track, and then I'll do one just with this through the tube preamp, and then I'll do kind of like not an affected track, but what I call like the feel good track, you know. So it's like I'll add compression to it, because especially with bass too, is that, you know, sometimes the compression affects the dynamic of how you play a song. Like if you just plug your bass in direct and, you know, you just start playing, you're going to hear all the wonkiness, or, you know, or the, you know, you're going to hear it just absolutely direct. So sometimes I feel that if you EQ it, you know, and put like use a compression on it, you know, so it helps your dynamic of playing, but it might not be what fits in the mix of that song. So you don't want whoever you're sending your track to be married to that sound. Like say coming through your headphones, it feels good to kicked up, 40 hertz, you know, give it a little more of like a shrill high end to get definition, but cut out the mids. You know, it might feel good to you, but it might not be what is good for their mix, good for their song. So usually I'll give them 3 tracks of the same bass line, you know, so I'll split it 3 ways. So, but that is my main thing for recording here, you know. Wow. And then I have like a portable rig where it's like a little Radial Engineering makes it. It's a 500 series. It's like a little lunchbox, but it has like a tube preamp, a compressor, and an EQ. And it's freaking killer, you know. So if I'm like going remote or something like that, or if it's something like I go to someone's house to do a recording track, or go to someone's studio, go to whatever it is, you know. Right. So at least I know what I'm bringing with me is something that'll sound good, you know.
Yep.
So, yeah, part of the circus, man. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we dig, baby.
More than 3 rings there.
Definitely.
All right. So we're talking about gear. Let's talk about have you ever had that one piece of gear? And this is one of the segments that we always kind of do. Did you ever have that one piece of gear that got lost, got stolen, you sold, that you wish you had back?
You know, I would say there's 2 things. You know, okay. One thing would be early on I had a Chapman stick.
Okay.
And it was like, and again, a Chapman stick is kind of one of those things where to get it to really play it well. You have to either play it well or it's just a gimmick. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's not like, it's like, you know, hey, I have the 17-string bass and I'm going to just bring it out for one song. You know, you're not going to bring it out for one song. You got to just, you know, play the freaking game. You know, it's like, but it was an early one, and it was made out of like all Purple Heart. It was heavy as hell.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think that there was so many times where for like certain recordings, and again, not to perform live, you know, it's like, but it would have been perfect on those tracks. Right. You know, and a lot of times, like, you know, with certain things, I'll end up trying to get like emulate that sound. I'm not a big tapping guy, you know, but it's just like, and with that envelope filter, it sounds marvelous.
Oh, we lost the audio a little
something
bit.
Like simple, yeah, you know, but the attack of a Chapman stick is right. I think that's nothing sounds like that. That's one thing. And then I would say the other one would be my very first teacher sold me his 76 Music Man Stingray.
Oh.
And it was a 76 Music Man Stingray. In the mid 90s, he asked me if I would sell it back to him. And of course I would.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't. I owe so much to him, just as a player, as a human being.
Right.
I would absolutely, hands down. You know, it's like, so. I don't have a Stingray now. You know, and it's like, and I almost kind of like, I had been toying with getting one for the Arsenal, but it's almost like I'm at a point with instruments where it's like, I don't really get instruments or buy instruments anymore that don't have like some kind of like real meaning to me. You know what I mean? It's like this, like, you know, some things are impulse buys, right? You know, where you get like, you go to a store and you see this Les Paul and you're like, wow, you know, it's like, I'd love to have something like that, you know, but part of me is like, you know, some basses that I've seen, I'm like, wow, that's incredible. I love that bass, but it doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean? It's like, if it doesn't have a history to it, or, you know, or if it's not made by someone that I know, you know, that has some, you know, some passion to it, it's almost like, you know? So it's like, it's that Stingray would be perfect. You know, that one would be perfect for the Arsenal. You know, it's like, and I don't know if I would want any other one, you know, but but I'm happy that it went to him, you know, because that's where it needed to be, you know. I'm no regrets, put it that way. No regrets. I think he deserves that, you know. Yeah. And after everything he's done for me, he deserves that totally. That's one of those things.
Super cool. That's
good.
Really good. Great part of the show.
See, and we always put a bet on. So one of these guys said you sold it to get a hooker. I think Lenny said you sold it for cocaine. So you got us all beat. None of us are collecting the money this week.
Usually we're selling them to, you know, so that I don't have to blow guys at the train station.
You know, the hooker. I mean, I was at this, you know, we went fishing one day, and this guy. You know, that was a horrible attempt at a terrible joke, but I just, you know, that was terrible. All right, I'm not that good on my feet. That's why I don't do stand up, you know.
No,
so
get out.
We'll stay on equipment for a minute. How about that? I mean, you talked about a lot of the gear, even the stuff you're using now. How about the gear? We call it the gear of the week, although we know it doesn't really become the week. It's like, what's the piece of gear that's recent to you that you either love or hate? What do you have? What does it for you recently?
I mean, one of the things that I am most surprised at is that C1 filter, that envelope filter.
Yeah. That
to me is like, you know, that's an eye opener for me, you know, because especially on that low B, the way it tracks, you know, and the adjustability. So I think, you know, this really has made a difference recently in my, you know, in my perception of envelope filters. So I'm going to give that 1,000,000% thumbs up right now.
Cool. Good.
So that is one of them.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I would say that.
Very cool.
And I will say another one, and I wish I had it here to show you. But again, I don't have it here. But Carrie Nordstrand just made this short scale bass called the, I can't pronounce the name, Asinonics. I got to look it up here, the actual name. And I know Dead Air sucks. Freaking.
No, that's okay. We do it a lot.
Yeah,
we're terrible.
Sit here and just like say it's meditation.
Yeah, we can just talk about ourselves too. You know, we're musicians too, so we like talking about ourselves. Narcissistic bastards that we are.
God, we could fill up hours.
Yeah, this is why this is the reason we do a show, so we can like talk to people.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
We just need you on to fill the time between us being dicks.
Yeah.
Oh man. Of course, like spell check is like.
While he's looking it up, Tommy, do you got a piece of gear that you're working?
Yeah. Well, I went.
What do you got?
Like I said, man, I went back to February's in 1985.
Yeah. Oh, right. You went to the right. Tommy's been building an old Boss pedal board.
I did this.
Yeah.
Because I'm bored.
Dude.
Look at that.
Oh, that's killer, man.
Yeah.
Because I needed.
Hang on. Let me blow you up there. Hang on.
Oh yeah, blow me.
There you go. Oh look! Wow, I've never done that. Ed Pin. So we got John and Tommy blown up. Wow, this is cool. I've never done this before.
So I went and like for some reason that whole JHS thing where he was selling those no frills pedals for $99, which are killer.
Yeah.
I was like, I should get those. I should get the delay. And then I'm like, why do that when I can have this colorful thing filled with plastic thing filled with the pedals that I have mostly, except for 5 of them.
Well, I had almost all of them except for 5.
Yeah, I had all.
You had the fucking tuner, is what you're trying to say.
No, I had this awesome Keeley distortion. You know, the Keeley.
Okay. Yeah.
The Keeley mod, which just cuts through fucking mixes like crazy.
Yeah.
And it's super cool. So I had that, and then I was like, well, you know what? I need an overdrive, and I need a delay, and you know what? I need a chorus. And then I searched for a phaser, and this is a...
I notice he says need on all this.
Need. This is
John, ask him why he needs 5 OCD pedals.
Because you have to daisy chain them together to get that magic sound of 5.
Well, yeah.
He needs some that sounds like a metal zone when you put it all together.
Because I can't play a metal zone, but I can play 5 OCDs in a row.
But it should not be 4; it must be 5.
It must be 5, and they must be all different versions so that I can get that certain tone all the way. So anyway, the Boss thing cracked me up, and then Joey goes, it looks like February's in 1985. The stage,
like the stage floor in every February's gig in '85. I was like,
oh my God, that's so great. This thing will never leave the house, so it'll be immaculate because my big pedal board looks like an ashtray.
Yeah. See, the only thing, the thing they realized with those pedal boards is that they were watertight. Except when you spilled beer on them, it just puddled in the bottom.
Oh, I know. There's no venting. Right?
No, that's why. I think that's why they went.
I need to drill out the bottom so I can.
So the beer would run through. I don't know how many gigs, how many pedals I blew because you make a pedal board and it's like, oh, there's no drain for the beer that some drunk just spilled on my pedal board.
Right, you get in the back of your car and you put it in the trunk and it's raining out. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know how many people I hit because they're stepping on my pedals or falling into them or dripping beer on them or
So that was what. So far, other than rebuild pedal board after pedal board and rewire everything, I figured, I needed this too because I like the colors.
Yeah.
It's all about the colors.
Yeah. John, did you figure out what you were looking for? I'm sorry. We went off on a tangent and that was it. Well, see, this is what happens when you have shitty hosts is we just go off.
Well, it's called the cat. He calls it the cat bass. And it's Asinonyx, ACINONYX. And it's a short scale bass. And it's freaking phenomenal. It's kind of like, and when he was developing, he showed me the prototype, the diagrams of it. It's kind of, based on like an old Goya Panther.
Right.
And it's phenomenal. Just phenomenal. So I'm like, that's like, I have that, and I'm just playing it all the time. It's just sitting next to me, and it sounds killer. Because Carrie Nordstrand makes Nordstrand pickups. Yes. So it's like, I don't know if he started by making instruments, then made the pickups, then the pickups just exploded. You know, because I mean, I've been swapping out for Nordstrom pickups for like most of my basses in the last couple of years, but it's just phenomenal. It's like, I love that little short scale thing. Of course, you know, me, I'm 6'2", and so it looks like, you know,
yeah,
little friction.
Yeah, kind of like the complete opposite with Randy Rhoads with a Les Paul, right?
Yeah,
right. So, but I would say those are my kind of go-tos, you know, that have kind of changed my way of thinking a bit, you know.
Awesome, very good.
Yeah.
Good. So we always ask the guests, you got a Spinal Tap moment for us?
Oh yeah. I got a Spinal Tap.
These are always good.
All right. We're going to the probably early 90s. So I'm in this band, and we had gotten like this spec deal from Virgin Records, and we're at the club, and the singer and the guitar player were just notorious, you know, for getting into arguments. So we're getting ready to go on stage, and they get into this freaking slap fight in the back of the stage. They're just, I mean, they get into this fight, and it's like, I mean, dude, it was embarrassing. It was freaking horrible. It was terrible, and I don't even know what it was about. It's probably about like wanting to play a guitar solo and them not wanting. Dude, it was just horrible. So we go on stage and we play, and everything's fine, everything's great, and but everyone just talks about like, hey, I heard you guys got into a fight backstage. Is everything all right? Every 5 seconds, someone's coming up to me after the show. I heard about the fight. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, it was just so bloody embarrassing. And basically, Virgin Records was before they had their offices in New York, gradually forgot about us. Because of the slap fight, you know. So
yeah.
Oh yeah. That was very Spinal Tappy.
Oh man.
Yes, the slap fight. That would actually make a really good video. You know,
yeah.
A good skit. No, dude. I was like, what are you doing? You know.
Amazing. That's and as mature as we are as musicians, it actually makes sense to us.
Yeah, at least at the moment for them.
Yeah. All right. So we've come to the we talked to you about this earlier. You're going to do a thank you rather than sometimes we do a fuck you for our
right. So it's not like the fuck
right.
you, you're so good, but
yes,
I will use my
you can use a thank you on it. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Nothing wrong with being a gentleman.
Unlike the other three of us.
Yeah.
So who do you have? Who's your a big influence on you, or somebody you really looked up to, or said like, wow, he really blew me away?
Well, I'm going to say, just from a more personal standpoint, at first. So, I mean, obviously, thank you to my very first teacher, Rich Pasriello. Mm-hmm. You know, that was a big one. That's a big one. And Chris Munger, my bandmate, because I don't think we ever would have, been where we are without without being together, without the stuff that he's done over time. And Rob Noxious is in my world too. So
yes. We've had Rob on here. Rob's been on here actually a couple times.
Yeah, Rob's awesome.
Yeah.
But I think one of the coolest people, and I wish he was around today, but one of my first experiences was I was probably about 13. I just started playing the bass really, and there was some of the girls that I went to went to the local high school. They had said like, hey, there's a guy who's looking to put this like teenage doo-wop project together, and and they're looking for a bass player. And I'm like, here, with my Iron Maiden shirts on and stuff like that. I'm like, doo-wop. You know? So I'm like, all right, well, why not? You know? So I'm like, all right. And so I had my very first bass was like an Area Pro 2, you know, and I was playing through like a little guitar amp because I didn't have a bass amp yet. And so it turns out that the person who was producing it was Steve Tudanger. So Steve Tudanger was one of the original members of the Archies. So, you know, sugar, sugar, you know, and, you know, so that was one of my very first professional experiences, you know, and I couldn't really read music very well, you know, and it's like the project ended up kind of going south, you know, it just didn't, you know, we did a couple things. It was really great, really cool. You know, for my first recording, this is my first, you know, real experiences and, you know, in any kind of professional standpoint, you know, but when it ultimately was kind of going over, you know, was over, he took me aside and said, he's like, hey, John, you know, just I have to tell you, you know, whatever happens, he's like, you need to do this. You know, he's like, you know, you have a really good ear for music. You know, you have a really, you know, you have a great personality for it. He's like, I would love to see you become, you know, study music and be a musician, you know? And it was one of those things where one of the people who used to come to practices every once in a while was Ellie Greenwich from the Ronettes, you know, so, you know, leader of the pack, you know?
Yeah.
So they were very good friends. So he was like, if you need a referral for music school, me and Ellie will write you whatever. You know, it was time. I was in high school. I was getting ready to go to college, and he's like, we'll write you whatever recommendations you need. He's like, we'll make sure. You know, so I actually sat down with my parents. You know, met with my parents, and I didn't go to music school, but I ended up going to engineering school. But it was just one of those things. I have to say thank you to him. You know, because as a kid, you know, he really gave me a lot of encouragement and kind of gave me the, you know, it was, high school was a really weird time. You know, I think as all of us probably experienced, you know, where it's, you know, especially in that era, you know, where it's like there was a lot of cliques, there was a lot of crap going on. You know, it's like people trying to fit in, and, you know, music was kind of like my thing, you know, but I didn't really fit in with the musicians either, you know, because I wasn't,
absolutely.
It was kind of a weird place for me, you know, and I think it was because of his encouragement at the time, you know, kind of made me feel like I was, you know, maybe worth something, you know, with it. And, you know, and I had amazing parents, absolutely. So with them too, you know, but I would say from a music standpoint, probably I would say the biggest thank you would be for Steve Tudanger. And I wish he was around today. So.
Oh, that's really nice.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Wow. He's like touching and shit, man. Fuck.
Yeah.
Here I am saying, oh, I'm going to fuck this guy, fuck that guy.
I'm going to have to Dude, that was great.
Yeah, it was. It really was. It really was. So we haven't had a chance. We've had so many people on recently. Lenny, do you have anybody that you'd like to give a fuck you, thank you to recently?
No, I don't. You know, just the, you know, everybody before us. You know.
Yeah.
Thank them for everything they've done. I'm still learning. I'm still hearing things for the first time. You know, the music came out 20, 30, 40 years ago, and, you know, it's just everything. You know.
Yeah, you know, I think that's one thing I noticed. Like, as I got older, man, like I'll go back and listen to shit that I wouldn't. You know, I was a metal guy. You know, so I used to hate, like, you know, Depeche Mode and The Cure. Like, I can't listen to that. And like I've recently gone to see Depeche Mode. I just totally, like, one of my favorite bands of all time, The Cure. Love The Cure, man.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, I just can't get away from that shit now. And it's great because there's like so many albums I can go and get into. You know? Right. That's the one nice thing I think about getting older is you get to rediscover stuff that, you know, that passed you when you were younger. You know, so it's really cool. You know, so Tommy, you got anybody?
Play with them now too.
Yeah.
Did you get to see that? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one actually.
Who do you got?
Joey, fuck you, man. That song you played last week.
What?
The Grim Jack track?
Oh, the new one, the new track.
Fuck you, man. You know, and all that shit you're doing, man. That's so fucking
Thank
good.
you.
I'm so jealous. I'm gonna start crying again. Yeah. It's beautiful, and you know, it's great. And I thought it was, you know, I've heard the tracks. You know, Gigi's been playing for me on and off and listening to them, and the tracks are killer, dude. You guys are just really, I'm really, really super happy, and I think you should fuck yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. So
and the fact that I've gone back and listened to so much stoner rock lately, man. I just you know, you guys are great, and thank you, and Lenny too for doing the show. This is so good. And
we've really had a great time, you know,
and having a good time. And
every once in a while,
being on too. So.
Yeah, every once in a while, you know, the stress gets like this week. I had a really rough week. I was, you know, doing technical classes. I was doing a Cisco class, which, you know, it was like one of those.
I know, that's fucking annoying. I know.
Oh, you know, it was like 46 hours in a row. Yeah. You know, it was nonstop classes, and then, you know, you still got to keep checking on work, and I'm doing construction in the next room, you know, so like. Tommy texted me before as I sent out the invite, and I'm saying, like, fuck these guys, I didn't send out the invite. And it's because I didn't send it out, but I'm sitting there with a hammer drill, jug, in my room, and I get the text, I'm like, fuck, I didn't send the invite out yet, you know? And it's only because of my own failure, because I didn't plan to I should have sent out everything, like when I did the artwork for you, and, you know, like I didn't see, like,
it wasn't so much that, it was like you send it, and I just fucking completely disregard it half the time and fucking delete it. You know, if you send it early, I'm like, this must be from last week, and I delete it. And that's what I'm like, and I'm scrolling through the whole thing, and I'm going, now I got to ask him if fucking sent it, because he probably did.
And I didn't. I'm glad he did it, you know, but I'm sitting there like, fuck him, he should have sent it. Like, he can't send it. It's on my account. I can't have anybody else send it.
I knew that was the actual response when I actually got it from you. Like, you know what? Fuck you guys. Fucking somebody else do something. I'm fucking down here naked cooking bacon. It's fucking no.
Yeah, it was good.
Sorry, man. There wasn't enough comedy in the show, so we need Joey naked cooking bacon.
Yeah, I was gonna say naked bacon cooking. That sounds like an Olympic event. Yeah.
Naked bacon. That's great. But John, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. We're going to do a couple of plugs.
You guys live, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
One thing. The band is my world.
Yes.
Tell people that may not know who you are, or are through this show want to know more. Where can you be found on all your social media platforms?
Yeah, I mean, all of our social media is My World Band. Our website is My World Music. So that's a little confusing, but yeah, My World Band, including YouTube page. We released 3 new tracks actually at the beginning of the year. Rat-a-tat, Dead Dog Sunday Afternoon, Dead Dog Sunday Hit Parade, and kind of brain farting on that one.
Another
Seesaw
one.
Holiday. Seesaw Holiday.
Okay.
So we did 3 new tracks before the pandemic hit, and so we got some new stuff in the hopper, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where you can find us, you know, and. You know, we're pretty active with the social media stuff. I've been kind of like lax on it during the whole pandemonium thing. So
we're
all right. So hopefully, when this whole thing comes to a pass and the planet starts to heal itself, you'll be out there doing what you do. And if you haven't seen this band is a fucking juggernaut.
It really is.
These guys cover so much ground. I mean, in any given song, I wanted to say this earlier, but I'm going to wait till now. There's thrash, there's country, there's vaudeville, there's opera, there's blues. It is insane what they do in one song. And like, we've hosted them many times in the past, and it's just mind blowing to see this band live. So I really wish soon that we get to continue with that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No, thank you.
This was an honor and very insightful to have you on, and please come back.
I appreciate what you guys do. I really do.
And if you guys and you put out any of these songs, have the whole band come on. We'll
We'd love to bring Rob and Chris on next time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
You know,
Rob, I was almost going to think about having Rob because I had Rob call in for Russ. You know how close he and Russ are. So we had Rob call in for Russ.
I expected him just to chime in.
Yeah, I was going to, but I know he had a gig. You can subscribe here on YouTube, and if you're on Facebook, artists like John, like Billy Sheehan. And what is it with all the bass players all of a sudden? 4 bass players in a row.
I think in the last month we've covered almost all of them.
Those we've had. It's fantastic.
I saw part of that Johnny Howland one.
Oh my God, is he great?
He's really great. I mean, I've seen him a couple of times, you know, and it's like, just wow. And it was really nice to hear him speak and really kind of, you know.
Oh, he's so.
You guys are going to come to my house, right? I'm like, well, sooner than you think.
Yeah. I'm on the way. Yeah. Actually, which was really nice. What a nice guy, you know.
That's really cool.
So
it's been great. And again, we've been doing this just to make sure that people are okay. And if they want to chime in or private message us or anything, please do so, man. And reach out to John. We'd love to talk. That's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, John, hang on. We're going to say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah, but don't go anywhere.
Yeah, you don't go anywhere. John. All right, guys, we are signing off. Music.
Thank you, everyone. Have a very happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, we got that turkey thing going on, right?
Yeah.
Bye.